Welcome back, focused learners, to another explainer, where we take complex source material and turn it into clear, actionable knowledge. Today, we're exploring what might just be the absolute ultimate cognitive toolkit for modern problem solving. We're looking at a framework called STAR STEMS. It's this incredible, secular, universal intellectual innovation built specifically for the 21st century.
So let me ask you something right off the bat. When a sudden crisis hits, do you react with emotion or respond with logic? Right? Because in the chaos of our modern global challenges, whether that's a messy workplace conflict or massive social shifts, our default is usually this frantic, emotional reaction. What we urgently need is a mental pause button. We need a way to shift from total chaos into a structured space where we can actually turn those crises into creative opportunities.
Okay, let's dive into this blueprint of the cognitive architecture we're going to build today. We'll start with Phase 1, the foundation, which is our inner world. Then we'll define Phase 2, reality, through SBL. Next, we set our Phase 3 goals with STAR. After that, we map our Phase 4 strategy using the STEMS process. And finally, establish Phase 5, the maintenance cycle.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Foundation, the Inner World. The core philosophy here is remarkably simple, but honestly incredibly profound. Before we can even hope to sustainably fix the outside world, we absolutely must stabilize our inner world.
Our source material defines STAR STEMS as a universal thinking platform or an intellectual innovation. It was originally developed by General Dr. Fol-Saniganet, and it's designed strictly for sustainable problem-solving and decision-making. Now, what's really fascinating here is that while its roots definitely touch upon some deep philosophical concepts, it's presented as a completely secular, universal framework. This means literally anyone, anywhere, regardless of their background, can use it to navigate complex issues.
The very first tool this platform hands us is that mental pause button we talked about, directly contrasting emotional decision-making with scientific thinking. When a crisis happens, the platform heavily emphasizes the practice of mindfulness, specifically just through simple breath awareness. By taking a breath and grounding ourselves in the present moment, we basically short-circuit our reactive emotional state. We avoid using fear or anger as our primary baseline, which completely opens the door for calm, objective scientific thinking, even when you're under intense pressure.
Once we've hit that pause button, we analyze the situation through what the framework calls the universal laws of nature. This is crucial because it strips away all our personal biases and assumptions. We objectively look at physical changes and the environment, biological mechanisms, psychological states, behavioral cause and effect, and universal natural changes. By viewing a problem through these very scientific lenses, we aren't judging the situation. We are simply observing what actually exists.
So, now that our inner world is stabilized, we move on to Section 2, Reality, SBL. This is the structural framing of our thought process, starting with the absolute necessity of defining reality as clearly as possible. And this brilliantly illustrates how the entire ecosystem is deeply interconnected. As you can see, the three core components, SBL right there in the center, flanked by STAR and STEMS, well, they don't operate in isolation. They form one seamless, continuous engine for processing problems.
Let's zoom in on that centerpiece, situation-based learning, or SBL. This is exactly how we define the problem. The goal here is to establish a right view. That's an undeniable baseline of truth that everyone involved can absolutely agree on. To do this, we strip away personal assumptions and use the classic 5W1H framework. Who is involved? What exactly is happening? Where is it taking place? And when did it start? It's pretty straightforward, but if we don't start with a shared, factual reality, any solution we try to build is eventually going to collapse.
With our reality firmly defined, we shift our narrative focus to Section 3, Goals, STAR. We know exactly where we are. Now we need to set our ultimate destination, what the framework refers to as our guiding star.
To actually achieve a successful outcome, there are 4 non-negotiable criteria, and they spell out STAR. S is for sustainability. Your solution must last long-term without creating new messes down the line. T is for timeliness. It has to fit the current moment and situation. A is applicability, meaning it's practical and achievable with the resources you actually have on hand. And finally, R is for response to needs. It absolutely must fairly address the needs of all the stakeholders involved. Honestly, if your goal doesn't check all 4 of these boxes, you need to go back and set a new goal.
So, we have our starting point and our destination. But how do we build the bridge between them? That brings us to Section 4, Strategy, The STEMS process. This is the core operational system of the framework, which the creator calls the Thinking Fusion Platform. This strategy, the STEMS process, is a fast-paced sequence of 5 chronological steps designed to systematically engineer a bulletproof action plan. We move rapidly from scientific thinking to tie international technology into English engineering through moral mathematics, and finally, we filter it all through sociogeology. Let's walk through exactly how this builds upon itself.
Step 1 is scientific thinking. This is where we use pure logic to find the why. We are tracing the problem back to its absolute root cause. We aren't just looking at the surface-level symptoms, we're analyzing the exact process of how the problem occurred in the first place.
Step 2 is represented by a T, standing for Thai International Technology, but broadly, it's all about lessons learned. This is where we actively search for past successes. We combine modern global technologies like AI or advanced data software with local wisdom and historical context. The main takeaway here? We do not have to reinvent the wheel. Seriously, someone somewhere has likely faced at least a piece of this problem before.
Once we have our root cause and our tools, we move to Step 3, English engineering. This is where we logically organize our resources to actually drive the solution forward. We split our action plan into 3 very specific groups. First, direct tasks that actually solve the core issue. Second, communication tasks to ensure everyone understands what's going on. And third, indirect tasks that manage the support and resources. It's all about total logistical alignment.
Now for Step 4, moral mathematics, which acts as a crucial dual safety check. First, the mathematics part. Is the plan logical, reasonable, and cost-effective? Second, the moral part. Does it follow the ethical rule of putting oneself in another's shoes? We verify the entire plan through logic and ethics to ensure that in our attempt to solve the problem, we aren't inadvertently harming someone else down the line.
The final filter in our strategy is Step 5, sociogeology. Listen, you can engineer the most logically perfect, cost-effective plan in the world, but if it clashes with local culture, traditions, or laws, it is going to fail. This final step ensures our engineered solution actually respects the social context of the people it affects. That's how you guarantee true social acceptance and long-term success.
But what happens when a problem is simply too big or complex to solve in one go? We transition into our final phase, Section 5, Cycle Maintenance. We have to acknowledge that some modern problems are practically infinite. They require ongoing, structured adaptation. And that's where the STAR-STEM cycle comes into play. Once a plan is implemented, the work isn't over. We continuously evaluate our results against those 4 STAR criteria. Are we still sustainable? Are we still meeting everyone's needs? We take the lessons learned and constantly tweak and improve the strategy over time. Think of it as a continuous loop of improvement until that desired, sustainable outcome is truly locked in. To bring it all together, the source material leaves us with this incredibly powerful idea. STAR-STEMS is a roadmap for collective thinking and collective action. It empowers all of us, individuals and organizations alike, to replace emotional, reactive conflict with reasoned, structured collaboration. It ensures our solutions are efficient, ethical, and socially appropriate. So I'll leave you with this. The next time chaos strikes, will you just react? Or will you use this platform to hit that pause button and truly think? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to try out that mental pause button today.